She thought marrying a wealthy chief would save her family from poverty, until she discovered why his previous 3 wives vanished without a trace, and why the one room he forbade her to enter held secrets that would either kill her or make her the first woman brave enough to expose a family's century-long reign of terror. Welcome to Stories HQ, where we bring you the most gripping African family dramas that will leave you breathless. Thank you for your incredible support. You are the reason we keep bringing these powerful stories to life. Before we dive into the story, kindly subscribe, drop a comment below and tell us where you are watching from. Now let's get into this explosive story. The smell hit Amara first, copper and decay, sweetened by something chemical that burned her nostrils. Her hand flew to her mouth, but nothing could stop the scream building in her chest as her eyes adjusted to the darkness of the forbidden room. 3 glass cases. 3 bodies. 3 women who looked eerily like her. Same complexion, same build, same desperate, frozen expressions. The ornate golden key trembled in her grip, and when she looked down, her fingers were stained crimson. Not rust. Blood. Fresh blood that wasn't there when she'd turned the lock. Then she heard it. The distinctive purr of Chief Kunle's Mercedes pulling through the compound gates. 2 hours early. He never came home early. Amara's heart slammed against her ribs. He'd given her explicit instructions that morning. My love, I have business in Abuja. I won't return until midnight. Enjoy the mansion. Go anywhere you wish. Anywhere. Except that room. His smile had been indulgent, almost amused, as if he were humoring a child's curiosity about a locked closet. But his sisters had other ideas. What would you do if your dream life turned into a nightmare? Hit like if you've ever had a gut feeling something was wrong, and tell me where you are watching from. You think you're special? Ngozi, the eldest sister, had hissed that afternoon during her courtesy visit. She'd circled Amara's new Italian leather sofa like a predator. You're the 4th wife in 5 years, you foolish village girl. Where do you think the others went? They left him, Amara had replied, though even then her voice wavered. He said they couldn't handle the lifestyle. Ngozi's laugh was bitter. They left, all right. Question is, how did they leave? And why does my brother keep marrying the same woman over and over? Same height. Same skin. Same trusting eyes. You're jealous, Amara had whispered, but the seed was planted. The second sister, Chioma, had been more direct. She'd cornered Amara in the marble kitchen, pressing a small golden key into her palm. I found this in Mama's belongings after she died. She told me to give it to Kunle's next wife if she seemed worthy. If she seemed smart enough. Smart enough for what? To survive him. Now, standing in this chamber of horrors, Amara understood. The key felt alive in her hand, pulsing with accusation. She'd thought Kunle's sisters were jealous, bitter women unable to accept their brother's happiness. She'd dismissed their warnings as family drama. She'd been so wrong. The car door slammed outside. Kunle's voice drifted through the compound, speaking Yoruba to the gateman. He was laughing. That easy, charming laugh that had made her fall in love with him 6 months ago when he'd visited her village for a business deal and noticed her serving pepper soup at her mother's roadside restaurant. This one, he declared, pointing at her like she was a prize. This one has intelligence behind her eyes. Not like these Lagos girls with their fake accents and empty heads. He'd courted her family with gifts, bags of rice, generators, school fees for her younger siblings. Her mother had cried with gratitude. Her father had called Kunle a blessing from God. Even her skeptical grandmother had been won over when Kunle knelt before her in the red dust, asking for Amara's hand in proper Igbo tradition despite being Yoruba himself. He honors our ways, her grandmother had said, touching his head. This is a good man. Amara's hands shook as she tried to wipe the blood from the key. It wouldn't come off. The crimson stain seemed to spread, creeping up her wrist like an accusation. She could hear Kunle's footsteps on the marble stairs now. He was whistling, that same tune he whistled every night before bed. A lullaby, he'd told her. His mother used to sing it. The room seemed to shrink around her. The glass cases reflected her terrified face 3 times over, multiplying her fear. She noticed details now that her initial shock had obscured. The women were dressed in wedding gowns. White lace and satin, yellowed with age. The first case held a woman with a gold chain around her neck, engraved with a name, Zainab. The second, Blessing. The third, Adiz. All the names Kunle had mentioned casually over dinner. My ex-wives? Oh, they left me. Zainab went to Canada. Blessing married a pastor. Adiz. I think she's in London now. Lies. All lies. The whistling grew louder. He was on their floor now, just outside the master bedroom. The forbidden room connected to their suite through a hidden door disguised as a bookshelf. A door she'd discovered only because she'd leaned against it while dusting and felt it give way. Amara. Kunle's voice was honey-sweet. My love? Where are you? I've brought you a surprise. Her fingers fumbled with the key, trying to lock the door again, but her hands were too slick with blood and sweat. The key slipped, tumbling through her fingers in terrible slow motion. It hit the marble floor with a crystalline ping that seemed to echo forever. The whistling stopped. 4-3 heartbeats. There was only silence. Then Kunle's voice again, closer now, right outside the bookshelf door. Amara. What was that sound? She pressed herself against the wall, her mind racing. The cases. The blood. The key. His sister's warnings. Her grandmother's blessing. Her mother's tears of joy. All of it crashed together in her head like broken glass. The bookshelf door swung open. Chief Kunle stood framed in the doorway, backlit by the bedroom's soft lighting. He looked like the successful businessman he was. Tailored agbada, gold watch, handsome face. But his eyes had gone flat and cold like a shark's. He looked at the open door. At the glass cases. At the blood-stained key on the floor between them. Then he looked at Amara, and his expression transformed into something that made her blood run cold. It wasn't anger. It was disappointment. Oh, my dear, he said softly, shaking his head. I had such high hopes for you. You seemed so much smarter than the others. So much more obedient. He stepped into the room, and Amara heard the bookshelf door click shut behind him. 6 months earlier. Amara's mother always said that dreams were dangerous things for poor girls to have. Keep your eyes on your pepper soup, not on the Mercedes that drive past, Mama would scold, stirring the massive pot outside their small restaurant. Those rich men? They don't marry girls like us. They use us and throw us away. But Amara couldn't help dreaming. While her hands chopped vegetables and her feet carried trays, her mind wandered to the towers of Abuja she'd seen on television, to the university education she'd had to abandon when Papa died, to a life beyond the red dust roads of their village. She was 26 and single, practically an old maid by village standards. Her younger sister Chinyu had married at 19 and already had 2 children. The aunties whispered. The church women pitied her. Even her own grandmother had started looking at her with concern. What are you waiting for? Grandmother asked one evening, braiding Amara's hair on the veranda. That teacher, Mr. Okonkwo, has been asking about you. He has a good job, a small house. He's 53, Grandma. So, your grandfather was 20 years older than me. A man with stability is worth more than a handsome face. But Amara wanted more than stability. She wanted partnership, respect, maybe even love, though admitting that aloud would earn her more lectures about foolish romantic notions from movies. The day Chief Kunle arrived changed everything. He came in a convoy of 3 cars, unusual for their village, where most visitors arrived on Okadas or in decrepit danfos. The restaurant fell silent as he emerged, tall and commanding in a navy blue senator suit. His entourage fanned out around him like he was royalty. I'm told this is the best pepper soup in Enugu State, he announced, his voice carrying easily. I've come to judge for myself. Mama nearly dropped her ladle. Amara felt her sisters staring. But she steadied herself, smoothed her wrapper, and approached him with the confidence she'd learned from years of dealing with difficult customers. Welcome, sir. Goat meat or catfish? He studied her face with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable but somehow wasn't. What do you recommend? Goat meat, she said without hesitation. The catfish is excellent, but our goat meat pepper soup is why people drive 30 kilometers out of their way. He smiled, a real smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. I like a woman who knows her worth. Bring me a large bowl. And whatever you're having. I haven't eaten yet, sir. Then we'll eat together. I don't like dining alone. Her mother's eyes nearly popped out. Chinyu actually gasped. But Amara found herself intrigued. This man, clearly wealthy and important, wanted to share a meal with their restaurant worker? Over pepper soup so spicy it made his eyes water. Chief Kunle told her about his business, import-export, with connections across West Africa. He asked about her life, actually listening to her answers instead of just waiting for his turn to talk. When she mentioned her incomplete university degree, he didn't mock her or change the subject. Business administration? He nodded thoughtfully. A waste of intelligence, leaving that unfinished. The country needs educated women. The country needs a lot of things it doesn't get, Amara replied, then immediately regretted her boldness. But Kunle laughed. True. Very true. You're sharp, Amara. I appreciate that. He returned the next day. And the day after. Always during lunch, always requesting her specifically. The village began to talk. He's going to ruin her, the church women whispered. These rich men have wives already, the aunties warned Mama. 3, 4 wives in Lagos. He'll make her his mistress and break her heart. But Kunle's intentions proved honorable. Shockingly so. On his 4th visit, he arrived with her uncle and showed proper respect for their family customs. I would like permission to court your niece, he told Uncle Emeka formally. With the intention of marriage. The family meeting that followed was chaos. Half of them insisted it was too good to be true. The other half accused them of trying to sabotage Amara's fortune. Her mother cried, happy tears or worried ones, Amara couldn't tell. Only grandmother remained skeptical. He's too old for you, she said privately. 45 to your 26? And where are his people? Why doesn't he bring his family to meet us? He's busy, Grandma. Important. And age is just a number. Grandmother's eyes narrowed. No, child. Age is wisdom. And my wisdom says something is not right about this man. He's too perfect. Too charming. Men like that always have secrets. But Amara was already falling. How could she not? Kunle sent her thoughtful gifts. Books, not just jewelry. He discussed politics with her, valued her opinions, made her feel seen in a way no one ever had. When he finally kissed her under the mango tree behind the restaurant, she felt like Cinderella at the ball. The proposal came just 6 weeks after they met. Kunle arrived with a small army, his business associates, his driver, his gateman, but notably absent were any family members. My parents passed away, he explained smoothly when Amara's uncle questioned this. Cancer, both of them, within a year. I have 2 sisters, but we're not close. Family politics, you understand. They didn't approve of my business success. It was a red flag Amara chose to ignore. She was too dazzled by the 30-carat ring, the promise of a mansion, the university tuition he offered to pay for her siblings. Her mother's restaurant would be renovated. Her family would never struggle again. How could she say no? The traditional wedding was grand. Too grand, some said. Kunle spared no expense. A live band, matching Aso Ebi for 300 guests, a cake taller than Amara. Her mother wept with joy. Her siblings danced until dawn. Only grandmother refused to fully celebrate. She took Amara aside during the reception, gripping her hand with surprising strength. Listen to me, child. If anything feels wrong, anything at all, you run. You hear me? Don't worry about shame or disgrace. You run and you come home. I don't care what the village says. Grandma, you're being dramatic. Promise me. Amara promised, just to ease the old woman's fears. She didn't believe she'd ever need to run from paradise. The first month of marriage was everything she'd dreamed of. The mansion in Abuja was stunning. 5 bedrooms, a pool, gardens maintained by a team of staff. Kunle showered her with attention, taking her to the finest restaurants, buying her designer clothes, treating her like a queen. He was attentive, almost obsessively so. He wanted to know where she was going, who she was talking to, what she was thinking. At first this felt like love. He cared so much about her. He was so interested in her life. But slowly, subtly, the attention began to feel different. Why do you need to call your mother every day? He asked once, his tone light but his eyes sharp. You're here now. With me. I should be enough. She's my mother, Kunle. Of course, of course. I'm just saying, too much contact with your old life might make you dissatisfied with your new one. I've seen it happen. With previous wives, Amara thought but didn't say. He rarely mentioned them, and when he did, It was always vague. They'd left him. Couldn't handle the lifestyle. Wanted simpler lives. Do I remind you of them? She'd asked once curiously. Kunle's face had gone oddly blank. Who? Your ex-wives. Oh. No. You're nothing like them. A pause. Well, maybe a little. I seem to have a type. Intelligent, beautiful, humble. But you're special, Amara. Smarter than all of them combined. I can tell. The compliment should have warmed her. Instead, it left her cold. The second month, his sisters came to visit. Ngozi and Chioma arrived unannounced, sweeping into the mansion like avenging angels. Amara tried to be the perfect hostess, but they barely glanced at the refreshments she'd prepared. So you're the new one, Ngozi said, looking Amara up and down like merchandise. Pretty. Young. Naive. I'm 26, Amara replied coolly. Not that young. Young enough, Chioma muttered. Their hostility confused her until Kunle returned home, and his fury at finding his sisters there terrified her more. She'd never seen him angry before. His face transformed, became something carved from stone. Get out of my house, he told them quietly, dangerously. Now. After they left, he'd apologized profusely. They were jealous, he explained. Bitter women who couldn't stand to see him happy. They'd wanted him to marry within their social circle, someone they could control. Don't let them poison your mind against me, he'd begged, taking her hands. They've tried to destroy every good thing in my life. Amara believed him. What choice did she have? He was her husband. His sisters were strangers. But Chioma's parting words haunted her. Ask him about the room he keeps locked. Ask him why he needs a room his own wife can't enter. She'd asked that very night. Kunle's explanation was reasonable. It was his private office, he said, where he kept sensitive business documents. Nothing sinister. Just necessary security. I'll give you keys to everywhere else, he promised. The whole mansion is yours to command. Just not that one room. A man needs one space that's entirely his own, don't you think? She'd thought of her father, who'd had a small shed behind their house where he'd gone to think. Private space seemed reasonable. Normal. Until Ngozi's visit that afternoon, 3 months into her marriage. Until the golden key pressed into her palm. Until the blood-stained evidence that something in her perfect new life was very, very wrong. Now, standing in the forbidden room with her husband blocking the exit and death displayed in glass cases behind her, Amara understood that every woman in her family had been right to worry. She should have listened to grandmother. She should have run when she had the chance. Kunle's smile was the most terrifying thing Amara had ever seen. Not angry. Not violent. Just pleased. Like a teacher watching a student finally solve a difficult problem. I wondered how long it would take you, he said conversationally, as if they were discussing the weather. Zainab lasted 3 months before curiosity got the better of her. Blessing made it to 4. Adiz, sweet, trusting Adiz, held out for nearly 6 months. But you, Amara. He took a step closer. You lasted only 3. I'm disappointed. Amara's mind raced. The room had only one exit, the bookshelf door Kunle now blocked. No windows. No escape. She could scream, but the mansion staff had been dismissed for the evening. Kunle always dismissed them when he left on business. How convenient, she realized now. How perfectly planned. The blood on the key, she whispered, buying time. How? Kunle's laugh was delighted. Still asking questions? Still trying to understand? This is what I love about you, Amara. That brilliant mind. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an identical golden key. Chemistry, my dear. The key reacts to oxygen and human oils when the wrong person uses it. A little theatrical, I admit, but it helps me identify which wives can be trusted and which. He gestured to the glass cases. Cannot. Comment, Amara will escape. If you're rooting for her to expose him. But your sisters gave me the key, Amara said, her back pressed against the cold glass of Adiz's case. They wanted me to find this. Did they? Kunle's smile widened. Or did I want you to think they did? Ngozi and Chioma are many things, but they've never betrayed me. Not really. They've always played their parts perfectly. The betrayal hit Amara like a physical blow. The hostile visits, the warnings, the key. all of it orchestrated by Kunle himself. A test. A trap. Why? The word came out broken. Why marry us just to kill us? Kill you? Kunle looked genuinely surprised. Is that what you think this is? He gestured to the cases, and for the first time, Amara noticed details she'd missed in her panic. The women's chests were moving. Barely. Shallow breaths that created the faintest fog on the glass. They were alive. Oh God, Amara breathed. What have you done to them? I've preserved them, Kunle said softly, almost tenderly. They failed my test, Amara. They couldn't be trusted with my secrets. But I loved each of them, truly I did. So I keep them here in stasis. Medical technology is advancing so quickly these days. A specialized sedative, feeding tubes, monitors to keep their bodies alive while their minds sleep. He ran his finger along Zainab's case lovingly. She was so beautiful. But she opened the door. Saw what she shouldn't have seen. What was I supposed to do? Divorce her? Let her go to the police with wild stories? No, this was better. This way, she's mine forever. They all are. Amara's legs threatened to give out. This wasn't just murder. It was something far worse. A living death, preserved like specimens in a museum to his obsession. What did they see? She asked. What's in the other cases you're so desperate to hide? Kunle's face darkened. You don't ask questions here, Amara. You don't get to negotiate. You opened the door. You broke my trust. Now you have to face the consequences. He reached behind him and pulled out a syringe from his pocket. The liquid inside glowed faintly yellow in the dim light. Don't worry, he cooed, approaching slowly. It doesn't hurt. You'll simply fall asleep, and when you wake up, well, you won't wake up. Not really. But you'll be safe. Protected. Mine forever. Amara's survival instinct kicked in. She grabbed the only weapon available, a heavy brass candlestick from the side table, and swung it at Kunle's head. He ducked easily, laughing. There's the fire I knew you had. Yes, fight me, Amara. Make this interesting. The others went so quietly. It was almost boring. They circled each other in the small space. Amara's mind catalogued everything. The glass cases too thick to break quickly, the locked door behind Kunle, the syringe in his hand, the monitoring equipment in the corner. Equipment meant power cables. Cables meant she could create a distraction. She feinted left, then dove right, yanking the power cord from the wall. Alarms immediately began to wail, the life support systems for the women in the cases detecting the loss of power. Kunle's confident expression cracked. What have you done? They'll die without. Then save them. Amara shouted. Or chase me. Your choice. She didn't wait for his answer. While he hesitated between pursuing her and rushing to restore power to the cases, she bolted for the bookshelf door. Her hands found the hidden release mechanism, a book about psychology that pushed inward, and the door swung open. She ran through the master bedroom, down the marble hallway, her bare feet slapping against cold stone. Behind her, she could hear Kunle's roar of rage as he made his choice. He was coming after her. The mansion that had seemed like a palace now felt like a labyrinth. Every hallway looked the same. Every door could be a trap. Amara's lungs burned as she raced down the grand staircase, nearly tripping on the Persian runner. The front door. She just needed to reach the front door. But when she got there, she found it locked. Not with a regular lock, with a biometric scanner that required Kunle's fingerprint. The windows were all sealed with the same system. The mansion wasn't a palace. It was a prison, designed to keep people in as much as out. Did you really think I'd make it that easy? Kunle's voice echoed from above. He was descending the stairs slowly, confidently. He knew she was trapped. This is my domain, Amara. Every lock, every window, every door, they all obey me. There's nowhere to run. Amara's eyes darted around the entrance hall. The kitchen. Maybe there was a servant's entrance, something without biometric locks. She sprinted toward the back of the house, through the dining room with its table that sat 20, past the theater room and the gym. The kitchen door was locked too, but this one was just a deadbolt. She fumbled with it, her hands shaking so badly she could barely turn the mechanism. It clicked open just as Kunle entered the kitchen behind her. You're making this harder than it needs to be, he said, sounding almost sad. I really did love you, Amara. More than the others. I thought you were different. Special. I am different, Amara panted, backing through the door into the outdoor kitchen area. I'm the one who's going to stop you. Stop me. His laugh was genuine. Sweet, naive village girl. Who would believe you? I'm Chief Kunle Adebayo. I have connections in the government, the police, the military. I'm a respected businessman. A philanthropist. And you? You're a nobody from nowhere who married above her station and went crazy with paranoia. That's the story everyone would believe. He was right, and they both knew it. The realization must have shown on Amara's face because Kunle's expression softened with pity. But it doesn't have to be that way, he continued, his tone turning wheedling. Come back inside. We'll forget this happened. I'll even give you access to the room. Let you help me care for the others. You're smart enough to understand what I'm doing. This is preservation. Amara. These women are immortal now, in their own way. Perfect and unchanging forever. For a split second, Amara almost considered it. What choice did she have? Where could she go? Her family was hours away. She had no money, no phone, no allies. Then she remembered grandmother's grip on her hand at the wedding. You run, child. Don't worry about shame or disgrace. No, Amara said firmly. I'd rather die trying to escape than live as your prisoner. Something flickered in Kunle's eyes. Respect, maybe, or recognition. Then you'll die, he said simply. Because I won't let you leave. I can't. He lunged forward, syringe raised. Amara grabbed a cast-iron skillet from the outdoor kitchen counter and swung with all her strength. It connected with Kunle's shoulder, making him grunt and stumble back. The syringe flew from his hand, shattering against the tiles. For one precious moment, they both stared at the broken glass and spreading yellow liquid. Then Kunle's face contorted with pure rage. You have no idea what you've just done, he snarled. That was the only dose I had prepared. It takes weeks to synthesize. Weeks. Good, Amara gasped. It means I'll have to kill you the old-fashioned way. He pulled a knife from his pocket. When had he grabbed that? And Amara realized she'd been wrong about him from the beginning. The charming suitor, the devoted husband, the disappointed romantic. All masks. The real Kunle was standing before her now, and he was a monster. She ran into the garden, her only advantage being that she knew he wouldn't kill her out in the open where the neighbors' security cameras might see. The mansion sat on 2 acres of carefully landscaped property, surrounded by high walls. If she could climb the wall, reach the street, scream for help. But the walls were 12 feet high with razor wire at the top. And Kunle was faster than she'd expected, closing the distance between them with terrifying speed. Amara's foot caught on a garden hose. She went down hard, her hands scraping against rough stone. Before she could rise, Kunle was on her, his weight pressing her into the grass. I tried to do this humanely, he panted in her ear. I tried to make it peaceful. But you just had to be difficult. Just like my mother was difficult. Just like all women are difficult when they don't get their way. The knife pressed against her throat. Amara could feel the blade's edge, sharp enough to split skin with the slightest pressure. This was it. This was how she died. Not preserved in a glass case, but bleeding out in a garden like discarded trash. Kunle! A voice cut through the night. Step away from her. Now. Amara's eyes widened. Standing at the garden entrance was Ngozi, holding up her mobile phone with its camera pointed directly at them. Behind her stood Chioma, also recording. Kunle froze. What are you doing here? His voice was strangled. I told you to stay away tonight. We followed you home, Ngozi said coldly. We've been watching you for months, brother. Waiting for you to slip up. And you finally did. You're recording? Kunle's laugh was panicked now. That's nothing. I can explain. Can you explain the women in your secret room? Chioma interrupted. Because we've been in there. We've called the police and the ambulance. They're on their way. The knife against Amara's throat trembled. For a terrifying moment, she thought Kunle might kill her anyway, just out of spite. But then she heard the distant wail of sirens, and Kunle's grip loosened. He stood slowly, the knife dropping to the grass. His face had gone blank again, that same empty expression Amara had seen in the forbidden room. It won't matter, he said quietly. I have friends in the police. I have money. I have. You have nothing, Ngozi spat. Not anymore. We've already sent copies of the recordings to 3 different news stations and posted them online. By morning, all of Nigeria will know what you are. Police vehicles burst through the front gate, their lights painting the garden in flashes of blue and red. Officers poured out, weapons drawn, surrounding Kunle. He didn't resist. Just stood there, staring at Amara with something that might have been regret. I really did love you, he said as they cuffed him. You were the smartest one. The strongest. If any of them could have understood me, it would have been you. I understand you perfectly, Amara replied, her voice steady despite the blood trickling from the shallow cut on her throat. You're a monster who hides behind charm and wealth. And I'm the one who exposed you. As they dragged Kunle away, Ngozi and Chioma rushed to Amara's side. She wanted to thank them, to ask why they'd helped her after seeming so hostile. But her body had finally reached its limit. Her vision blurred, her legs gave out, and the last thing she heard before unconsciousness claimed her was the sound of ambulance crews rushing into the mansion. The women in the glass cases would live. And so would she. 2 weeks later. The hospital room was private and expensive, paid for by the same government officials who'd quietly arranged for Kunle's arrest to happen as discreetly as possible. They couldn't hide the news entirely. The recordings Ngozi and Chioma had posted went viral within hours, but they could control the narrative. Minimize the scandal. Protect the powerful families connected to the Adebayo name. Amara was done being controlled. She sat propped up in bed, her throat bandaged where Kunle's knife had left its mark, surrounded by her mother, her grandmother, and her siblings. They'd arrived within hours of hearing the news, Mama's wails audible from the parking lot. My baby. My poor baby. I should never have let you marry him. I knew something was wrong. You didn't know, Mama, Amara said gently. None of us did. He was very good at hiding what he was. Grandmother, however, remained silent. She sat in the corner, watching the news coverage on the television with an unreadable expression. When the others finally left to get food, she moved closer to Amara's bed. I need to tell you something, Grandmother said quietly. About the Adebayo family. About why I knew that man was dangerous the moment I saw him. Amara's heart rate picked up, making the monitor beep. What do you mean? 40 years ago, before you were born, there was a scandal in Abuja. A wealthy businessman, Kunle's father, Adebayo Sr., was arrested for the disappearance of several young women. The case never went to trial. Too much money changed hands. Too many connections in high places. But everyone knew. The whole country whispered about it. The serial killer who got away, Amara breathed. She'd heard stories, urban legends about wealthy men who preyed on poor girls. That was Kunle's father? Grandmother nodded. He died in a car accident before the police could build their case. Many said it was God's justice. But he left behind 2 young daughters and a son. Kunle was only 12 when his father died. The rumors. They said he'd been helping his father. Luring the girls, watching what happened to them. Ngozi and Chioma, Amara realized. They were those daughters. Yes. They were sent away to boarding school in England to escape the scandal. Changed their surname. But Kunle, he stayed. Inherited everything. And apparently learned all his father's tricks. A knock on the door interrupted them. Ngozi entered, carrying a leather journal. Her face was drawn, older than Amara remembered from just 2 weeks ago. Behind her came Chioma, equally exhausted. We need to talk, Ngozi said without preamble. About what we knew. What we should have done sooner. And what you deserve to know about our family's curse. Grandmother left them alone, shooting the sisters a look that could cut glass. Don't you dare hurt that child anymore, she warned. She's been through enough because of your blood. After she left, Chioma locked the door. Ngozi pulled up chairs, and they sat facing Amara like defendants before a judge. In a way they were. You must hate us, Chioma began. We deserve that. We played our parts, just as Kunle said. But not because he manipulated us, because we were cowards. Start from the beginning, Amara said. Her voice was harder than she'd intended, but these women had handed her the key, had set her up, had let her walk into that nightmare. Hate wasn't a strong enough word. Ngozi opened the journal. This belonged to our mother. She died 6 years ago, but before she did, she made us promise to stop Kunle. To save his next victim. We failed you. We failed all of them. Why? The question came out like an accusation. Why did you wait so long? Why play games instead of going to the police immediately? Because we tried that, Chioma said bitterly. With Zainab. We went to the police, told them Kunle had kidnapped his wife. They laughed at us. Said it was a family dispute. When we persisted, Kunle had us arrested for harassment. His connections run deep. Amara. Deeper than you know. Ngozi flipped through the journal. Our father was a monster, yes. But he wasn't the first Adebayo monster. This goes back generations. Our grandfather, our great-grandfather, a pattern of powerful men who couldn't stand to lose control of their wives. Some divorced them and destroyed their reputations. Others took more permanent measures. She stopped at a page marked with a photo. A young woman, beautiful and smiling, wearing 1960s clothing. Our great-grandmother. She disappeared after trying to leave our great-grandfather. They found her body 3 years later, sealed in the foundation of a building he'd constructed. Amara's stomach turned. This is hereditary? This sickness. We don't know if it's genetic or learned behavior, Chioma said. But every Adebayo man for 4 generations has shown the same pattern. Charm, control, violence. Our father taught Kunle well. Taught him how to choose victims. Always orphans or girls from poor families. People who wouldn't be missed or believed. Taught him how to use his wealth and status as armor. But the glass cases, Amara said. The preservation. That was new, wasn't it? Your father killed his victims. Ngozi nodded slowly. Kunle's innovation. He studied medicine for 2 years before switching to business. The sedative he used, it's his own formula, stolen from a research project he invested in. He told us once years ago that he'd found a way to keep his dolls forever. We thought he was being metaphorical. When did you realize he wasn't? After Blessing disappeared, Chioma admitted. She'd confided in me that she was afraid of Kunle. That he was obsessive, controlling. Then one day she was just gone. Kunle said she'd run away back to her family. But her family said they'd never heard from her. We broke into the mansion, Ngozi continued. Found the secret room. Found Blessing and Zainab in those cases. Alive but not alive. It was the most horrifying thing I'd ever seen. Why didn't you free them then? Amara demanded. Why didn't you call an ambulance, destroy the equipment? Because we tried. Chioma's voice broke. We called an ambulance, tried to remove the tubes ourselves. But the moment we disturbed the system, alarms went off. Kunle came home. He had sensors on his phone. He nearly killed us both right there in the room. Ngozi's hands shook as she turned another page. He made us a deal. He wouldn't press charges for breaking and entering. He wouldn't tell everyone that we'd gone crazy with jealousy over his happiness. In return, we'd play our parts. We'd help him test his next wife. Test. Amara's voice was ice. To see if they'd betray his trust. Open the forbidden room. If they passed his test, if they never opened the door, he said he'd let them live normal lives. He'd be a perfect husband. The room would just be insurance. A guarantee they'd never leave him. But none of them passed, Amara said slowly. Because you gave them the key. You made sure they'd fail his test. Chioma nodded, tears streaming down her face. We hoped, that if we could get one of them to open the door and escape before Kunle caught them, they'd expose him. We tried with Adiz. But we miscalculated. Kunle came home too soon. She went into the 4th case. So you used me, Amara said flatly. You used me as bait to catch your brother. Yes. Ngozi didn't flinch from the accusation. But we also recorded everything. We had cameras installed in the mansion. We've been building a case for the past year, documenting his routines, his patterns. We needed him to make a mistake in front of witnesses. To attack someone where we could record it and prove his guilt beyond any expensive lawyer's ability to deny. You gambled with my life. We did. Chioma's voice was small. And we'll live with that guilt forever. But Amara, you have to understand. If we just reported him, he would have walked free. He has judges on his payroll, police commissioners, politicians. The only way to stop him was to make the evidence so public, so viral, that no amount of money could bury it. Amara wanted to scream at them, to throw them out. They'd used her as bait, risked her life, let her marry a monster knowing what he was. But she also understood the impossible position they'd been in. In Nigeria's corrupt system, sometimes the only justice available was the court of public opinion. The other women, she said quietly. Zainab, Blessing, Adiz. Are they okay? Ngozi's expression softened. They're alive. The doctors are working on reversing the effects of the sedative. It'll take time, maybe months, but there's hope they'll recover. Their families have been notified. What about Kunle? In custody for now. But his lawyers are already working. They're claiming insanity. Temporary psychosis brought on by stress. They'll try to get him into a psychiatric facility instead of prison. Over my dead body, Amara said fiercely. I'll testify. I'll tell everyone exactly what he is. We know you will, Chioma said. That's why we're here. We want to help you prepare. The trial, if there even is one, will be brutal. His lawyers will try to destroy your credibility. They'll dig up every mistake you've ever made, every questionable decision. They'll paint you as a gold digger who married for money and then turned on your husband when you didn't get enough. Let them try, Amara said. I have the truth on my side. The truth isn't always enough, Ngozi warned. Not in Nigeria. Not when you're poor and he's rich. You'll need more than truth. You'll need strategy, evidence, and you'll need to be prepared for what they'll throw at you. She handed Amara the journal. This is our mother's testimony. Everything she knew about the Adebayo family's history. Everything our father told her in his final days. It's not admissible in court, it's hearsay, but you should know what you're up against. Amara took the journal with trembling hands. Its leather cover was worn smooth with age. Inside, page after page of neat handwriting detailed a legacy of abuse, control, and murder stretching back nearly a century. There's one more thing, Chioma said hesitantly. A reason why we were so certain you were the one who could survive Kunle and expose him. What reason? You're not the first person from your family to encounter an Adebayo man. Amara's blood ran cold. What are you talking about? Ngozi pulled out a faded newspaper clipping from the back of the journal. The headline read, Young woman's death ruled suicide. Family disputes finding. The photo showed a smiling woman in 1985 clothing. She had Amara's nose, her chin, her eyes. The caption identified her as Grace Okafor, Amara's father's sister. The aunt she'd been named after. The aunt who died before Amara was born. Grace was engaged to our uncle, Ngozi said quietly. Mother's younger brother. He was an Adebayo through and through. Charming, controlling, eventually violent. When Grace tried to break off the engagement, she fell from a balcony. The family said suicide. Her family said murder. No charges were ever filed. Tears blurred Amara's vision. My father never told me. Would you have believed him if he'd told you not to marry Kunle because his family killed your aunt 40 years ago? Or would you have thought it was just superstition and old grudges? She was right. Amara had been so dazzled by Kunle's attention, so eager to escape her humble life, that she'd have dismissed any warnings as her family trying to hold her back. She'd have married him anyway. Your grandmother knew though, Chioma added. That's why she was so against your marriage. She was Grace's best friend. She knew what the Adebayo family was capable of. A knock on the door made them all jump. It opened to reveal a police detective, flanked by 2 officers. Miss Amara? We need to take your formal statement. And I'm afraid I'll have to ask these ladies to leave. Ngozi and Chioma stood. Before they left, Ngozi pressed something into Amara's hand. A small USB drive. Everything, she whispered. Every recording, every document, every piece of evidence we've collected. In case something happens to us. In case Kunle's lawyers try to make this all disappear. You're the only one we trust with this. After they left, Amara faced the detective. He was older, graying, with kind eyes that had seen too much. Miss Amara, he began gently, I need you to tell me everything that happened the night of the incident. But before we start, I have to warn you. This is going to be difficult. Chief Adebayo's lawyers are already claiming you broke into his private property, destroyed expensive equipment, and assaulted him. They're saying you're mentally unstable and that the whole incident was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Amara's laugh was bitter. There are 3 women in comas because of him. I believe you, the detective said quietly. But belief isn't enough. We need evidence that will hold up in court. Evidence his lawyers can't dismiss or suppress. Can you give me that? Amara looked at the USB drive in her hand, then at the journal on her lap, then at her own reflection in the dark hospital window. She saw a woman who'd been used as bait, who'd nearly been killed, who'd uncovered a family's century of secrets. But she also saw a survivor. A fighter. The woman who'd been smart enough to escape when all the others hadn't. Yes, she said firmly. I can give you that. And more. Because I'm not just a victim. I'm a witness. And I'm going to make sure Kunle Adebayo never hurts anyone again. The detective smiled. Then let's begin. 3 weeks after the attack. The safe house was nothing like Kunle's mansion. A modest 2-bedroom apartment in a quiet Lagos neighborhood, with bars on the windows and round-the-clock police protection. Amara had been moved here after a journalist showed up at the hospital, followed by a concerned family friend, who turned out to be one of Kunle's associates trying to intimidate her into silence. She should have felt safe. But safety was an illusion she no longer believed in. You need to eat something, her mother urged, pushing a plate of jollof rice across the small table. You're getting too thin. I'm not hungry, Mama. You're never hungry anymore. How can you fight this man if you don't have strength? Strength. The word felt like a joke. What good was strength against Kunle's wealth, his connections, his army of lawyers who'd spent the past 3 weeks systematically destroying her credibility? The newspapers called her a gold digger. Social media said she'd trapped an innocent man. Anonymous commenters suggested she'd been having an affair and fabricated the whole story to steal Kunle's money. The fact that 3 other women lay in medically induced comas meant nothing compared to Kunle's carefully crafted public image. Chief Adebayo is a pillar of the community, his lead lawyer had said on television just yesterday. A generous philanthropist being crucified by a woman who couldn't handle the responsibilities of being his wife. This is a tragedy, yes, but not the tragedy she's claiming. The door opened, and Detective Ibrahim entered with Ngozi and Chioma. All 3 looked grim. We have a problem, Ibrahim said without preamble. The videos we posted online have been taken down. All of them. Every platform, simultaneously. What? Amara stood so fast her chair toppled. How is that possible? Money, Ngozi said bitterly. Kunle's lawyers filed copyright claims, privacy violations, defamation suits. They got court orders in record time. The videos have been scrubbed from the internet. But people saw them. Millions of people. Saw them, yes. But without the videos as evidence, it's just rumors now. Hearsay. Chioma's hands shook as she spoke. His lawyers are already spinning it. Saying we deep-faked the footage. That we're jealous sisters trying to destroy our successful brother. Amara felt the walls closing in. Without the videos, without physical proof of what Kunle had done to her in that garden, it became a he-said-she-said case. And in Nigeria's justice system, the wealthy man's word always carried more weight than the poor woman's truth. What about the women in the hospital? She demanded. What about the glass cases? The secret room. The cases have been removed, Detective Ibrahim said heavily. Kunle's lawyers claimed they were medical equipment for a legitimate research project. Said the women were paid participants who signed consent forms. Forged consent forms, obviously, but well forged. My superiors are being pressured to drop the investigation. No. Amara's voice was steel. No. I won't let him get away with this. It might not be your choice, Ibrahim warned. Without solid evidence, the prosecutor might decline to file charges. Kunle could walk free as early as tomorrow. The room fell silent. Amara's mind raced. There had to be something, some piece of evidence they'd overlooked. Some way to prove what Kunle was. Then she remembered. The USB drive. Ngozi, you said everything was on that drive. What exactly is everything? Ngozi and Chioma exchanged glances. You haven't looked at it yet? I've been a little busy recovering from attempted murder. Chioma pulled out a laptop. We should warn you. Some of this footage is disturbing. Are you sure you want to watch? I'm sure. What Amara saw over the next hour would haunt her forever. Ngozi and Chioma had been thorough. Cameras hidden throughout the mansion over the course of a year, recording Kunle's movements, his routines, his private moments. They'd captured him talking to the women in the glass cases, treating them like dolls, arranging their hair, adjusting their gowns. But more damning was the footage they'd captured of Kunle speaking to his lawyer in what he thought was privacy. Discussing his previous wives. Laughing about their family's inability to prove anything. Planning how he'd handle Amara when she inevitably failed his test. This is gold, Detective Ibrahim breathed. This is conspiracy, premeditation, confession. Even his lawyers can't dismiss this. They'll try, Ngozi warned. They'll say we illegally recorded him. That the evidence is inadmissible. In a criminal trial, maybe, Ibrahim agreed. But in the court of public opinion? This is nuclear. We can't just post it online, Chioma said. They'll take it down again, sue us for everything we have. Then we don't post it online, Amara said slowly, an idea forming. We go bigger. International. We contact journalists from overseas, human rights organizations, foreign embassies. Make this story so big that even Kunle's money can't bury it. That's dangerous, Ibrahim warned. You'll make powerful enemies. Not just Kunle, but everyone he's connected to. Politicians, businessmen, police commissioners. They'll come after you. They're already coming after me, Amara pointed out. At least this way I'm fighting back. Her mother grabbed her hand. Baby, please think about this. We can go back to the village. Start over. Forget all this happened. Mama, I can't forget. Even if I wanted to, there are 3 women in hospital beds who can't forget. Grace, your husband's sister, couldn't forget what the Adebayo family did to her. This ends now. With me. Over the next week, Amara worked with Ngozi, Chioma, and Detective Ibrahim to execute the most dangerous plan of her life. They contacted the BBC, Al Jazeera, CNN. They reached out to international human rights organizations. They compiled a comprehensive dossier. The videos, the journal, medical records, financial transactions showing Kunle's payments to corrupt officials. They called it the Adebayo Files. The response was immediate and overwhelming. International media descended on Lagos. The story exploded across global platforms. Nigerian billionaire accused of serial murder cover-up, Bluebeard syndrome, inside one family's century of abuse, the women who escaped death. Kunle's lawyers scrambled to control the narrative, but they couldn't copyright claim international news organizations. They couldn't pressure foreign journalists. The story was out, and it was too big to contain. Then came the death threats. First, anonymous messages on social media. You'll regret this. Accidents happen to troublemakers. Your family isn't safe. Then more direct warnings. A brick through the safe house window with a note attached. Shut your mouth or we'll shut it permanently. We need to move you again, Ibrahim insisted. Somewhere more secure. No, Amara said. No more hiding. I'm done being afraid. Amara, these people are serious. They've killed before. And they'll kill again if I let them intimidate me into silence. Don't you see? That's how they've gotten away with it for so long. By making their victims too scared to fight back. What Amara didn't tell Ibrahim, what she didn't tell anyone, was that she'd received a visitor the night before. A woman who'd slipped past the police guards like a ghost, appearing in Amara's bedroom with a finger to her lips. Don't scream, the woman had whispered. I'm here to help you. She'd been elegant, older, with expensive clothes and the bearing of someone used to power. My name is Taiwo. I was married to an Adebayo man 20 years ago. He tried to kill me. I survived barely, and I've spent the past 2 decades documenting every crime this family has committed. She'd handed Amara a briefcase. Bank records. Shell companies. Payments to police and judges. A list of 12 other women who've disappeared around Adebayo men over the past 50 years. Everything you need to bury them completely. Why give this to me? Amara had asked. Why now? Because you're the first one brave enough or foolish enough to take them on publicly. I've been waiting for someone like you.
Someone willing to burn it all down.
Taiwo had smiled grimly. But be warned, child. They won't let you win without a fight. And their fights are deadly. Now, sitting in the safe house with death threats piling up and international attention focused on her case, Amara understood what Taiwo meant. Kunle's lawyers had filed defamation suits. His business associates had contacted her family in the village, making thinly veiled threats. Even the police seemed torn between protecting her and protecting their corrupt colleagues. "We have a new development," Ibrahim said, entering the apartment with his phone in hand. "Kunle's lawyers are offering a deal."
"What kind of deal?"
"They'll drop all charges against you. Pay you a substantial settlement. 10 million naira. In exchange, you sign a non-disclosure agreement and leave the country. They've even arranged a visa and job offer in London. They're trying to buy my silence."
"Yes.
"And between you and me? You should consider it. This case is falling apart. The prosecutor is being pressured to drop charges. Even with all this international attention, the Nigerian justice system is still the Nigerian justice system. Kunle might walk free anyway." Amara looked at her mother, who was crying silently. At Ngozi and Chioma, whose faces showed the weight of generational trauma. At her own reflection in the window, bandaged and exhausted. 10 million naira. A life in London. Safety for her family. All she had to do was stay silent about Kunle Adebayo's crimes. All she had to do was let him win.
"No,"
she said clearly. "Tell his lawyers no deal. I'm testifying.
"I'm fighting this to the end."
"Amara," her mother sobbed. "Mama, if I take that money, how many more women will end up in glass cases? How many more families will lose their daughters? Someone has to stop him."
"It might as well be me."
Ibrahim nodded slowly. "Then we need to accelerate our timeline. The trial is scheduled for next month, but I have a feeling Kunle's people are planning something. An escape. A bribed judge. Maybe even." His phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face went pale.
"When?
"Are they sure?" He hung up and looked at Amara with an expression she couldn't read. "There's been an incident at the detention center.
Kunle is gone."
"Gone?" Chioma gasped. "What do you mean gone?" "Escaped. Overpowered 2 guards, stole a car, disappeared."
"There's a manhunt underway, but..."
Ibrahim's jaw clenched. "Amara, you need to leave.
Nah.
If Kunle is free, you're in immediate danger. He knows you're the only witness who can definitively put him away."
"He'll come for you."
"Let him come," Amara said, surprising herself with her own calm.
"I'm not running anymore."
"That's brave and foolish in equal measure," a new voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned. Standing there was Taiwo, the mysterious woman from the night before. But she wasn't alone. Behind her stood a group of women, 7 of them, ranging in age from 20s to 70s. All of them had the same look. Survivors. "Who are you people?" Ibrahim demanded, reaching for his weapon. "We," Taiwo said calmly, "are every woman who survived an Adebayo man. And we're here to finish what Amara started." The women filed into the cramped safe house like ghosts materializing from decades of pain. Amara recognized the look in their eyes. She saw it in her own mirror each morning. The hollow knowledge that you'd stared death in the face and somehow lived to tell about it. "My name is Adebayo," said a woman who looked to be in her 60s. "I was married to Kunle's grandfather in 1975. I was 17. He kept me locked in a room for 3 years before I managed to escape during a fire." "I'm Zainab," said another woman, younger, in a wheelchair. "Not the Zainab in Kunle's case. I was married to his uncle in 1998. He pushed me off a balcony when I tried to leave.
I survived but lost the use of my legs."
One by one they introduced themselves. 7 women, spanning 3 generations, all married to different Adebayo men. All survivors of attempted murder. And all of them had spent years documenting, investigating, and waiting for the right moment to strike. "We are the witnesses," Taiwo explained. "A network of survivors who've been building a case against the Adebayo family for decades. We knew eventually one of their victims would be brave enough, or desperate enough, to take them on publicly.
You, Amara, became that catalyst."
"Why didn't you come forward before?" Amara demanded.
"Why wait?"
"We tried," Adebayo said bitterly. "In the 70s, I went to the police. They laughed at me. Called me a hysterical woman. In the 90s, Zainab's case actually went to trial, but the judge was bought. Evidence disappeared. Witnesses recanted. We learned that direct confrontation doesn't work against powerful families in Nigeria. So what does work? Taiwo smiled. A sharp, predatory expression. Patience. Documentation. Waiting for them to make a mistake big enough that even money can't fix it. Kunle's mistake was you, Amara. You're educated, articulate, sympathetic to international audiences. You're the perfect witness to finally bring them down. Kunle has escaped, Ibrahim interjected. We need to get Miss Amara to safety. Kunle hasn't escaped, Taiwo interrupted calmly. We let him out. The room exploded in shocked voices. You did what? Ibrahim's hand went to his weapon again. You helped a serial killer escape custody? We arranged for him to believe he escaped, Taiwo corrected. Those guards he overpowered? They work for us. The car he stole? Equipped with GPS tracking and cameras. We know exactly where he is and where he's going. Which is? Amara asked, though dread was already forming in her stomach. Here. He's coming here to kill you. And when he does, when he makes his final desperate attempt to silence you, we'll have everything on camera. His confession. His violence. Undeniable, irrefutable proof that not even his lawyers can dismiss. You're using me as bait, Amara said flatly. Again. We're giving you the chance to end this, Taiwo countered. Not just for yourself but for all of us. For every woman who couldn't fight back. For your Aunt Grace. For the future daughters of Nigeria who deserve to live without fear of powerful men who believe they're untouchable. This is insane, Ibrahim protested. I can't authorize a civilian to deliberately endanger herself. You're not authorizing anything, Amara interrupted. I am. Taiwo's right. This is bigger than me now. If I run, Kunle wins. If I hide, another woman becomes his target. This ends tonight. Her mother grabbed her shoulders. Baby, no. Please. We've already lost your aunt to this family. I can't lose you too. You won't lose me, Mama. Because unlike Aunt Grace, unlike all these other women, I know exactly what Kunle is. I'm not naive anymore. I'm not trusting. I'm the one woman he didn't break. She looked at Taiwo. What's the plan? Over the next 2 hours they prepared. The safe house was rigged with cameras in every corner. The witnesses positioned themselves in strategic locations. Some outside, some in adjacent apartments, all armed with phones ready to broadcast live. Detective Ibrahim, torn between duty and desperation, called in backup he could trust. Officers who hadn't been bought by Adebayo money. He'll come through the window, Adebayo predicted, studying the building's layout. That's how Kunle's grandfather always attacked, through windows, when women felt safest in their homes. The bedroom window has the weakest lock, Zainab added, pointing to the blueprints. That's where he'll enter. Amara changed into simple clothing, jeans and a t-shirt, nothing that could be grabbed or used against her. Taiwo handed her a small device. Panic button. Press it if things go wrong, and we'll storm in immediately. But try to get him talking first. Confessing. That's what we need most. What if he just kills me immediately? He won't, Chioma said quietly. She and Ngozi had been silent through the planning, their faces masks of guilt. He never does. He always talks first. Explains. Makes his victims understand how clever he is. It's part of his ritual. The sun set over Lagos, painting the sky in blood-red hues. Amara sat in the bedroom, lights off, waiting. Her mother and siblings had been evacuated despite their protests. Only the witnesses remained, hidden but watching. At 11:47 p.m., the GPS tracker showed Kunle's stolen car parking 3 blocks away. At 11:53, motion sensors detected movement in the alley behind the building. At 11:58, Amara heard the soft scrape of metal on metal. Someone picking the bedroom window lock. Her heart hammered, but she kept her breathing steady. She'd positioned herself on the bed, back to the window, appearing to be asleep. But her hand gripped the panic button under the pillow, and her eyes were wide open in the darkness. The window slid open with a whisper. Footsteps crossed the floor. Careful, practiced, the movements of someone who'd done this before. Amara felt his presence behind her, felt the bed shift as he leaned close.
"Hello, my dear wife," Kunle whispered.
She rolled over, reaching for the lamp. Light flooded the room, revealing Kunle's face, wild-eyed, unshaven, wearing stolen clothes. But still handsome. Still charismatic. Still the man who'd convinced her she was special. "I knew you'd come," she said, proud that her voice didn't shake.
"Of course I came."
He sat on the edge of the bed like they were having a normal conversation. "You're my unfinished business, Amara. My one failure."
"I can't have that hanging over me."
"You mean you can't have me testifying against you?"
"That too."
He smiled, that same charming smile from their courtship. "You know, I really did love you. More than the others. You were so smart, so strong. I thought maybe you'd be the one who could understand what I am. What I need. To imprison women? To preserve them like specimens. To keep them perfect," Kunle corrected, his eyes taking on a fervent glow. "Women always change, Amara. They grow dissatisfied. They leave. They age. But if I can keep them exactly as they are in that perfect moment when they loved me most. Don't you see? It's beautiful. It's eternal love." "It's murder," Amara said bluntly. "You're a serial killer. Just like your father.
Just like your grandfather.
My father was sloppy. He killed them and buried them and lost them forever. But I'm better. I've preserved them. They're still mine. Still beautiful. Still perfect." Comment, Amara will escape. "If you're rooting for her to expose him." "The ones in the glass cases, you mean? Zainab, Blessing, Adiz." "Yes." His enthusiasm was chilling. "I visit them every day in my mind. Remember their smiles, their voices. They'll never leave me now. They're in hospital beds, Kunle. Doctors are trying to wake them up. Soon they'll testify against you too." His expression darkened. "Not if they never wake up. I have people in that hospital. 1 injection, 3 unfortunate complications. And they'll never speak again. You're going to kill 3 women in medically induced comas just to cover your tracks?" "I'm going to preserve my legacy," he corrected. "The Adebayo family has power, wealth, influence. We've had it for generations. I won't let one ungrateful village girl destroy everything my ancestors built." "Your ancestors were murderers too. Your grandfather, your father, your uncle. All of them killed women who tried to leave them." Kunle's smile was prideful. "And they were never caught. Never punished. Because we're Adebayos. We're untouchable." "Not anymore," Amara said quietly. His eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" "I mean you're being recorded. Right now. Every word, every confession. It's being live-streamed to 7 different platforms and broadcasted to international news agencies. You're not escaping this time, Kunle. You're finished." For a moment, his face registered pure shock. Then rage. Then, surprisingly, laughter. "You clever, clever girl," he said, standing up. "This was a trap. You knew I'd come. You wanted me to confess." He pulled a knife from his jacket. "Well, I'm not going to prison, Amara. And I'm not letting you testify. If I'm going down, you're coming with me." He lunged. Amara rolled off the bed, pressing the panic button as she moved. The bedroom door burst open, and Detective Ibrahim charged in with 3 other officers. But Kunle was fast. Faster than he'd been before, driven by desperation. He grabbed Amara, knife to her throat, using her as a shield. "Stay back," he screamed. "Stay back or I'll kill her right now." "It's over, Kunle," Ibrahim said calmly. "The whole country is watching this live. Drop the knife. Never. I won't be caged like some animal. I'm Chief Kunle Adebayo. I'm nobody." Taiwo's voice cut through from the doorway. She stepped into the room, followed by the other witnesses. 7 women, survivors of 7 Adebayo men, all staring at Kunle with cold fury. "You're nobody special. Just another coward who hurts women because he can't handle being told no." "Who are you?" Kunle demanded. "We are everyone your family ever tried to silence," Aurora said. "And we're done being quiet." The knife trembled at Amara's throat. She could feel Kunle's indecision, his desperation. Would he kill her? Would he surrender? The window shattered as a police sniper's bullet hit Kunle's shoulder. His grip loosened, the knife clattering to the floor. Officers swarmed him, wrestling him down, cuffing him as he screamed and fought. But his voice was drowned out by another sound, cheering from the street below. Amara stumbled to the window and looked out. Hundreds of people had gathered, phones held high, watching the live stream. When they saw her alive, the cheers grew louder. "You did it," Taiwo said quietly, appearing at her side. "You survived. You exposed him. You won." Had she? Amara wondered, watching them drag Kunle away. He was still screaming, still insisting he was untouchable. Even now, even caught red-handed with a knife and a confession, he believed his money and power would save him. But this time, the evidence was overwhelming. The live stream had been viewed by millions. International pressure was mounting. The Nigerian government couldn't afford to let him escape justice, not without confirming every negative stereotype about corruption and inequality. The trial, when it finally happened 3 months later, was the most publicized in Nigerian history. Kunle's lawyers tried every trick, claiming the live stream was fabricated, that Amara had entrapped him, that he was mentally ill. But with 7 survivor witnesses, recovered video evidence, medical documentation of his victims, and international observers monitoring the proceedings, there was no escape. Chief Kunle Adebayo was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. His assets were seized, his properties sold, the money distributed to his victims' families. The 3 women in glass cases, Zainab, Blessing, and Adiz, eventually woke up. Their recoveries were slow, traumatic, but they lived. They testified. They reclaimed their lives. Ngozi and Chioma faced charges for their complicity but received suspended sentences in exchange for their cooperation. They donated their inheritance to organizations fighting domestic violence and started a foundation in their mother's name. And Amara? She stood in the Lagos High Court a year later, watching as the judge ruled on the final lawsuit, the defamation case Kunle's family had filed against her. The judge, a woman who'd followed the entire saga, smiled as she delivered her verdict. The defendant, Amara Okafor Adebayo, is found not guilty of all charges. Furthermore, the court finds that she acted with exceptional courage in exposing a criminal conspiracy that had operated for decades. Her testimony and evidence have saved countless future victims. This court commends her bravery. The courtroom erupted in applause. Amara's family, her mother, grandmother, siblings, embraced her with tears of joy and relief. The witnesses stood in the back, nodding their approval. 7 survivors who'd paved the way for justice. Outside the courthouse, reporters mobbed her. "Miss Amara, what are you going to do now?" She thought about it. The village girl who'd dreamed of education and opportunity. The bride who'd married into a nightmare. The survivor who'd exposed a family's century of crimes. "I'm going to finish my degree," she said firmly. "Business administration. And then I'm going to start a foundation. One that helps women escape dangerous marriages. One that believes them when they report abuse. One that fights for justice when the system fails them." "What will you call it?" Amara smiled, thinking of her Aunt Grace, of Zainab and Blessing and Adiz, of all the women who'd suffered in silence. "The witnesses," she said. "Because every woman who survives deserves to be heard." Epilogue. 5 years later. The mansion in Abuja, Kunle's former prison, had been transformed. Where glass cases once held imprisoned women, now stood offices for lawyers, counselors, and advocates. Where a secret room had hidden atrocities, now meetings were held to plan interventions and rescues. The Witnesses Foundation had become one of Nigeria's most successful domestic violence organizations, helping thousands of women escape abusive situations. International funding poured in. Other countries began replicating their model. Amara stood in what used to be Kunle's forbidden room, now her office, looking at the wall of photos. Every woman they'd helped. Every success story. Every life saved. Her phone rang. "Miss Amara? We have a situation. A woman in Kano, her husband is wealthy, connected, and she's afraid to leave. She says no one will believe her." "Tell her we believe her," Amara said immediately. "And we're on our way." She grabbed her bag, but paused at the door. On her desk sat a framed photo, herself at 7 years old, standing next to her Aunt Grace. The aunt she'd never met but whose fate had intertwined with her own. "Thank you," she whispered to the photo, "for showing me that sometimes the only way to escape is to fight." Then Amara walked out of the room that once held nothing but horror, into the sunlight where other women were waiting. Women who needed to know they weren't alone, weren't crazy, weren't helpless. She'd been the peasant girl who married into a castle and found death behind locked doors. But she'd also been the only one smart enough, brave enough, stubborn enough to not just escape, but to destroy the monster and free all his other victims. And that, Amara thought as she climbed into the Foundation's vehicle, was a story worth living for. The end.